Happy Friday, folks. You're watching The Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network in partnership with our good friends at KLRN Radio. Thank you so much for joining me. You made it. You got through the week. It's almost time for that cocktail that you've earned. You know, unless you're the person that has one every night, then I also salute you for that. Welcome. Got a big show today. Good way to wrap up the week here on the Friday Roundup. The chat is now officially open. So wherever you're watching from, YouTube, X, no, not on X. I keep saying that. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. You can all chat me up through there. I will be monitoring the, hopefully my chat over on X. I still have yet. There's a weird setting that you have to be verified. It's the weirdest thing to me because I can't get that off for some reason. But send me a chat anyhow, see if I can find it. I hope you had a good week. I hope you had a better week than Biden did. Check this out. I say that like it was going to happen. There it is. Where is it? Where is it? Don't check that out. What the hell, man? You know, I used to be good at this. I had everything all set up, and then I clicked off of it like a genius. Hold on, stand by. Here it is. This is the one I'm looking for. I can't even blame Monday. I can't even blame lack of sleep. According to the JL Partners poll, Americans view Joe Biden as the worst president in modern history. Is there any argument for that? I mean, really, is there any argument whatsoever? It's just amazing that people are actually talking about it. He's not even out of office yet. Not even out of office. But he's looking solid. Like, he doesn't look his age at all. Oh, sorry. Okay, I take that back. But, man, the worst. Look, we've been saying it for years. That's the funny part. I've been saying it for years. Just about everybody on this side of the aisle has been saying it for years. If you had looked at what he was doing from a logical point of view and not an emotional point of view, you can draw no other conclusion that he is absolutely the worst president in modern history. It's just plain and simple. Plain and simple. Oh, boy. You know what's amazing to me? Is that some people still, even after this last election, and the, well, to use this guy's term, shellacking that the Democrats took, the referendum that was sent to government about what this country wants and what this country needs, not wants, needs government to do in the future. And you still get a guy like this just trying to do the same old crap the Democrats have been doing for the last few years. That cost them the election.
There are going to be times potentially when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. Suppressing votes. We've seen that from the Democrats. We've seen it when somebody adds votes, that suppresses other people's votes. I put up the Heritage Foundation report on voting fraud over the last couple of years. Not what they suspected. They posted actual cases and the outcomes. That's step one. He mentions the military. You look at how much woke BS is being pumped down the throats of young military members. That's already been done. Law enforcement. Politicizing law enforcement, as he said. Defund the police, blaming them for everything. No matter what a person does, you blame the cops for it when they get arrested. So that's already been done by Democrats. And then lastly, using the criminal justice system. I think he said SCOTUS too, but we already know that old argument. We know, pack the courts, blah, 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 blah. Using the criminal justice system. Look at what happened with the January 6th protesters. And I don't care if you agree or don't agree on the protesters. Throw that out. Look at the punishment that they're receiving for what amounts to trespassing at worst. Yeah, a couple of them break windows, a couple of them, storm the Senate. Okay. You can argue a bunch of things. But by and large, the majority of January 6th protesters were trespassing at worst. I don't want to hear sedition. I don't want to hear any of that because they were never charged for it. Trespassing. And they're getting 4, 5, 6 years. Minimally. I would say that is using the criminal justice system against Americans. Look at Trump. Look at what they've done to Trump and people who worked around him that wouldn't play ball. We know this has been happening. We know why it's been happening. To say the phrase that has been said a million times, they always accuse you of what they are doing. Let's hear more from Barry.
And in those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure. That's okay. In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm.
I agree. The line has been crossed. We do have to stand firm. And America agrees. That's why they voted the way they did this last election. It's a no-brainer. And this is what they do. This is what the Democrats love to do. Like I said, they blame you for what they are doing, or they point fingers and accuse others for what they are doing. This has been their playbook for years. For years. And the fact that they're not changing direction. Look, you had a couple people come out since the election on the Democratic side who said, look, we need a different approach. I applaud them for at least being able to admit that they did it wrong, that this last election was garbage. Look, they brought Kamala out, 2 weeks ago, absolutely hammered, telling people, don't give up your power or don't let somebody take your power, whatever that means. Right? They will do and say whatever they can. And those who aren't learning the lessons of history, those who aren't adjusting their course post-election are absolutely doomed politically. You can accuse whatever you want from conservatives, but I'll tell you right now, if you're a Democrat and you're not looking at this last election and saying, maybe we did a lot more wrong than we think, you're missing the point. You miss the point. You're either ignorant or stupid, or you have an agenda. And you might ask, what proof is there yet? Well, you look at Look at things like this. Donald Trump's favorability surges by nearly 20 points with young Americans. 20 points since the election. It's gone up even more. Young America is what carried Donald Trump. I mean, a lot of people did. You had Scott Presley. You had a lot of people doing the work. But the simple fact of the matter is, the young vote is what really turned out and made a big difference in a lot of places that it needs to. They did it right. And then you have idiots like Ernst in Iowa and morons like Lindsey Graham who are trying to get in the way of Trump's nominations. The referendum was set. The election it just happened a month and a day ago. You saw what America wanted. Trump didn't lie. He didn't try to hide the kind of agenda that he wanted to push forward for the nation. And the American people overwhelmingly said, yes, we want this. And then when he's putting up people that he thinks is best for the job, you have people on allegedly his side of the aisle. They're all rhinos. I'll take it a step further. I don't even think they're Republicans in name only. They're just douchebags in name only, who are getting in the way. We're going to hold up Pete Hegseth. Why? We're going to try there. I've heard a couple people talking about Kash Patel, who just, by the way, the National Law Enforcement Union just supported him to be the FBI director. These are obstructionists. These are people who are deep staters. This election was against them. Look, Pete Hegseth, all of these fake allegations that have come out with nameless people. I saw one Bill Christo put up this morning, that douchebag. Where one time there was a person, and then this person didn't like this person, and then this person thought this, and then there was the woman who's whole about the SA allegation that has been debunked when her husband didn't even believe her story. You have all of these fake allegations that are trying to come out. And then you have all these people like, hey, I've worked with Pete for years. I've never seen that side of him. He's done 20 years in the military. Just because he is not a swampy general who's worked with all of these companies, these military industrial complex organizations who make billions off of us going to war and shooting things, but because he's not in that swamp, he's not one of those people, he's not worried about the millions he'll make after he does his service to the country, they don't want him. And they don't want him because he's not a war hawk. And they want a war hawk. And you look at right now, Syria, we'll talk about Syria in a little bit. Syria is going out of control again. Ukraine and Russia, even though I heard Russia is trying to come to the negotiation table, I just heard that an hour ago. I don't know if there's truth to that. You look at what's still going on in the Middle East, right? We're not in a place where we need a war hawk. We got enough wars. We don't want any. We certainly don't want any of these that are already going on to escalate, because that's how we somehow get drawn in. Look, you just had Canada issue another order to add more weapons to their restricted or their banned file. They plan on confiscating these weapons from Canadian citizens, another firearms confiscation, and sending them to Ukraine. It's insanity. But they don't like Pete Hegseth. They'll say whatever he wants. I saw something about him drinking on a St. Patrick's Day show, and that's a problem. Dude, give me a guy who's going to have a couple beers. Give me a gal that'll have a couple beers. I don't care, as long as she's qualified and I think she's a good person. I don't care. Having a couple beers on a holiday show, on a drinking holiday, if he was having margaritas on Cinco de Mayo, who cares? That is not the problem. The problem is the Pentagon can't pass an audit to save their lives. You have generals who are advising war every chance they get. You have people like Lindsey Graham who are supporting said generals. And they're going to get away with a Pete Hegseth. Why? Because he's not a swamp creature. The country just voted against swamp creatures. Just voted against it. Oops, sorry, somebody just asked. If you look up SHR Media on the YouTube channel, that's where we are. But we just literally voted against all of that. So why would we want more of that? The country doesn't want it. Why does anyone in the government want it? You're supposed to represent our values. They need to understand that this election was groundbreaking for the nation. And I'll tell you right now, there are a few people, amazingly, John Fetterman's one of them, who is suddenly understanding that the country wants to go in a different direction than we had for the last 4 years. They were happy with the previous 4 years, and there was still a bunch of swamp creatures that didn't get rooted out, and they were still happy about it. Last 4 years have been garbage. Garbage. Inflation's up 20%. Crime is up. We're into wars we didn't get to. I could go on and on and on. Price of everything's through the roof. People are barely able to get by. The country voted to end that, to stop sending young people to war for no reason. And Hegseth, I believe, is the guy that will actually change that. You don't need the biggest mastermind of SecDef. You don't need the general who's got all the plans. You need somebody who can organize, manage, and put the country's best interests in what his advice is. That's what you need. You need a good manager. Lloyd Austin was not a good manager. That was his biggest problem. He was a terrible manager. I mean, look at the pullout of Afghanistan. Plain and simple. These people need to get it through their heads. These Republicans who are being obstructionists, you're going to get your ass primaried. You're going to lose all your support. If you have to fake it for the next 4 years, then you're better off faking it. You make almost $200,000 a year to represent the people. Most of y'all have no idea what it's like to live as a regular person in this country. You get so much crap paid for. You have lobbyists jamming money into your pockets. Just shut up. That's all you have to do is just shut up. Vote for the party that you say you're a part of. Vote for what the American people just told you they wanted. Stop thinking you know better. Remember, Lindsey Graham was the guy that wanted us bombing Ukraine. Lindsey Graham is the biggest war hawk on the planet. Joni Ernst supported the Floyd riots. She's gone against Trump before. She's useless too. These people need to wake up. Just wake up. You guys do nothing but lie and act for your whole career. Lie and act for 4 years. Because I'll tell you something right now. Any federal politician who is a so-called Republican who does not get behind Trump's agenda, start looking for a new job, dude. I'm telling you, you're going to get primaried. The country has changed. Politicians need to change as well. And by that, I mean they need to actually put the voters first. Because if you don't, we've already responded. And we'll respond again. I'm up against a break. Whew. I love getting fired up in the first act. I'm going to get, when we get back, I want to talk about Syria. And I wanted my mouth to work. You know, for the last almost 2 months, I've been sleeping for 2-3 hours a night because I have an injury I'm dealing with. Whatever, not a big deal. Last night, I actually got 7. And I think I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with myself. But we're going to take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss Syria because Syria is getting out of control. Right here on the SHR Media Network with our good friends over at KLRN Radio. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. It would help us out. The algorithm kicks our rear end We're trying to break 500 on YouTube. Even if you hate me, please like and subscribe. And then you can come back every week and yell at me. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Edge of Liberty Radio on the SHR Media Network. Simulcast by good friends over at KLRN Radio. Hey, if you want to yell at me in the chat, feel free. I try to answer the chat. Once again, please like and subscribe. That's still my every face, no matter what. If you like what I'm doing, please buy me a cup of coffee. Buy me a cocktail. It's Friday night. I need some bourbon. I also say that on Monday morning, but I do need bourbon. If you haven't been watching Syria, this has just been an incredible story. And look, there's going to be no winners in Syria. I'll tell you that right now. Because the rebel groups, from what I've read and understood, are no better than Assad. It's just a power struggle, but the ideologies are not all that different. How nervous or how obvious is it that Assad may lose control of that country and potentially be removed? Israel has been bombing their chemical weapons sites so they do not fall into rebel hands. It's getting serious over there. This started the SAA, I forget the name of the group. There's like 4 or 5 groups involved. Yeah, the SAA, the Syria Al Army, and its allies are attempting to organize a controlled retreat toward Damascus. Both Arab and Druze rebels have launched a series of attacks on military bases and other Syrian government positions along the border with Jordan. They're closing in on Damascus. And I'm sorry, the rebel group is not the SAA. That's the Syrians. They've taken tanks. They've taken heavy equipment. The Syrian army this time around has pretty much dumped and run every time they've been opposed by these rebels. And the people running these rebel groups aren't good people. I know they've let Christian groups control a couple of areas up north, But they're not, the rebellion's not a good people. But what's going to happen is Syria has chemical weapons. Syria has some equipment. Russia just came out and said to Syria, hey, we kind of have our own thing going on with Ukraine. We're not going to be much help to you. That's one of their biggest backers. Iran's allegedly sent some advisors, and they may send some military, but how little is too little too late? The rebels are using Syria's tanks against them, because when Syria is bowing out and dumping and running, the rebels are taking over the tanks. A lot of these rebels have a lot of fighting experience. And the question is, why now? Is it because Trump's coming in office and they're trying to, I don't know how Trump would play into that. Is it because they saw the weakness? And look, they started the rebellion, started this latest conflict, or this latest push for Damascus, while Assad was out of country. He was in Russia. And there's a good chance. I'm telling you, I've been reading a lot. If you want to follow someone on X that has good information, OSINT Defender, at SENT Defender, follows all the Middle East conflicts, and he has a lot of good information on it. I think it's a he. But the fact that the Syrian army is actively doing controlled retreats tells you how bad it is. And like I said, if you're Israel, or if you're other people around there, Jordan too, you got to be a little nervous, because you don't know what these lunatics are going to do if they get hold of all of that power. Syria's falling fast. Some people say they're going to be in Damascus in the next week. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Another great happy story. That wasn't a great happy story. So the city of Boston last week, man, my hometown is just a shit show. I'll tell you what. They voted unanimously, this Boston City Council, to protect illegals against the Trump administration. You all know how I feel about that. You all know what I say. Charge them with obstruction. But one of the loudest, most annoying people in the Boston City Council is a councilwoman. Hold on, I'm trying to remember her name exactly. I have it here somewhere. She was the one accusing everybody a couple weeks ago of being racist. Tanya Fernandez Anderson is her name. And she gave us, you want to know a little bit about how she is? This is Councilwoman Andrea Andrews.
People are calling me and telling me, don't say anything, stay in your lane, be quiet, sit down, you will lose your seat, they won't vote for you, fight, don't fight. What the fuck do I have to do in this fucking council in order to get respect as a black woman? And I'm gonna tell you, I'm not afraid of losing the votes. I'm not afraid of the seat. I'm not afraid of anybody here. People are calling me and telling me, don't say anything, stay in your lane.
What could she do for the votes? Well, I'm just going to say, and I'm going out on a limb here, I'm not a legal scholar. I'm certainly not a political advisor professionally. I'm just an observer. I'm just a commentator. But one of the things, Councilwoman, you may not want to do,
Anderson has just been taken,
is get perp walked. And you got perp walked
into custody.
Here's video from moments ago of the FBI outside a Dorchester home. We told you earlier this week the city councilor is under federal investigation, but neither she nor the city would tell us why. Officials cited the U.S. Attorney's Office, saying the integrity of a grand jury investigation would be impaired by disclosing information.
Fernandez Anderson has represented District 7 since 2021 and has faced several scandals. Last year, the State Ethics Commission found she violated the conflict of interest law by hiring her sister and son and raising their salaries. Fernandez Anderson agreed to pay a $5,000 fine. Just last month, the state office of Campaign and Political Finance sent her campaign a letter saying it had not timely filed deposit information and had taken contributions over the legal limit.
You love to see it, don't you? Don't you love it when they show you who they are when they get caught? Now, this arrest is allegedly for wire fraud, some wiretap. It has to do with a whole bunch of dirty stuff. But what kills me is, and it's just like, oh God, what's that mayor's name in Illinois? The one who's spending all the ridiculous money and was using the cops as her own like hit mob to close down anyone who didn't vote for her. So I'm sure, I know, mayor, oh gosh, I can't think of it, but it's the same thing of, oh, I'm in this position and you can't touch me. And then they're always the loudest. And you've seen this in both sides of the aisle. Let's admit there's plenty of people on both sides of the aisle have been like this. They talk about how they're just victimized constantly, blah, 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 blah. Like you said there, what do I have to do to get respect? Well, not breaking federal laws is right up there on the list. That's a starter. That's a starter. And it blows my mind how Democrats in power get themselves in trouble and then blame everybody else. Look, you have Eric Adams, who's talking about flipping parties now because he's under indictment. Now, I would say that case is political, 100% political. But again, it just blows my mind. If you were in a position, if you're in an elected position and it's 2024, why, dear God, why are you doing anything dirty? Because Democrats specifically don't seem to be able to read the room. I mentioned about the Boston City Council voting unanimously to protect illegals within the city limits from removal and federal agents. It's not just on a city level, it's on a state level. 2 men removed from a migrant shelter in Massachusetts for raping teenage girls, one allegedly impregnated his daughter. Neither were charged, only moved to a new hotel shelter. Cassie Akiva writes, she's a writer, I think it's for the Daily Wire and somebody else. But I'll tell you right now, if you haven't been following along with the crimes conducted by illegals in Massachusetts, it's out of control. I've talked about it a few times on the show. I've given a couple of reports. What was it, Nantucket? Where they had like 4 or 5 men sexually assault children and women and get arrested on that island. It's a small island. It's not a lot of people. This is why when we talk about immigration, we talk about you have to start deporting people. This is 100% why. Because we don't know who came over the border. This isn't hard. I don't know why anybody isn't supporting this. You're going to have some Democrats come around. Watch, mark my words. Mark them right now, right here, 12:34 p.m. on December 6th. You're going to have some Democrats in the next year as we start getting to the midterms, all of a sudden support removal of illegals. The country, it's like 68% want deportations to start immediately, if not sooner. Why do you think Tom Hooman has such a high support right now? Because they know he's going to do it. And he hasn't been shy about it at all. Once again, this goes to not understanding the position you hold. You don't take it seriously. And I know politicians have always gotten themselves in trouble. I get that. There is a level of, well, like that city councilwoman has. I am above the law because I am in a position of power. Look, in New Jersey, the senator, Bob Menendez, same thing. You have gold stashed around your house, cash. You're meeting with Egyptian officials and they're just throwing money at you because you're giving them information. And this is a problem that the left has more than the right. It does happen occasionally on the right. I'm not saying, look, you had what's his name there, George, Santos. Problematic. Needed to go. I don't think that was a political thing. I don't think they went after Santos for political reasons. They went after Santos because he was dirty. And I'm okay with it. Politicians, elected officials, every time they get caught, I want them perp walked. Because they're supposed to be held to a higher standard. You represent the people. You're still a person. You are still subject to the same laws, but your actions and your standards is supposed to be higher. And that needs to happen more and more. Politicians need to stop thinking that this is just their money, their time, they can do whatever they want, yada, yada, yada. You look at our budget. You look at how Congress spends our money. They spend it like it's theirs. They throw money around left and right. You look at the politicians I just mentioned who use their positions to make money. Screw the law. Only regular people follow that. Only rules for thee, not for me, right? Nancy Pelosi in the damn salon when everything was shut down and masked up, getting her hair done. Gavin Newsom, French Laundry, same thing. They show you who they are over and over again. And anyone who supports them is out of their mind. Because if that was you in that situation, they would bring you to the gallows in a second. They would absolutely, you would get the worst possible sentencing if you were that politician or if you were doing what that politician did. Rules for thee, not for me it just needs to be destroyed politically. Politicians need to be held accountable for everything. If they're dirty, get rid of them. I don't care who they are, left or right. If a crime is to have been alleged, proven, prosecuted, and convicted, see ya. And I do believe in the rule of law. I do believe in the criminal justice system. I do believe in convictions. But I also believe that any politician, state, local, federal, any allegation needs to be taken seriously. Seriously. Real allegations. Not there was a person who I met once who said that, blah, 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 blah. None of that garbage. Now, like you see with Hegseth, all these nameless people, that's the one thing that the media loves to do. An anonymous source. Oh, who cares? That person doesn't exist until they want to be a known source. And it's their credibility on the line. It's their well-being on the line. Financial, job, whatever. If you were going to try to destroy somebody, you don't do it anonymously. Because I don't believe you. And nobody should. I hate that in the workplace. Oh, you can leave anonymous tips. No. I've seen that before. Anonymous complaint was received. Well, who? Well, they want to remain anonymous. Okay, then they're really not that bothered. We live in a country where our criminal justice says you have the right to face your accusers. And I believe that standard should be held well beyond that. If you're an accuser, you should make yourself known. Other than that, shut up. Go away. We've seen this so many times where they have these anonymous or just unrealistic accusations that there's no way they could be proven or disproven. The circumstances forbid it to be disproven just as much as they forbid it to be proven. And the country's wisening up. You remember there was that woman who used to date Jeffrey Epstein like a week before the election who said that Trump groped her at one point 45 years ago and nobody was around, yada, yada, yada. It didn't catch traction. As a matter of fact, I think it was one of the reasons I think the Guardian went down because they ran with that story. That story was shopped around to a whole bunch of other outlets, and a lot of the other outlets are like, yeah, we're not touching that. Why? Because it's BS. And as time goes on, people are sick and tired more and more of chasing the BS and having it affect people that it shouldn't. Break time. I get the cocktail of the week coming up. The end of the shift. Same thing. A couple other topics I want to talk about. It's really crazy. I want to talk about Pete Buttigieg because just these numbers alone that I'm going to tell you about will blow your mind. We'll be back right here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Went to the break. I mentioned Pete Buttigieg, and there's a reason. This is going to be his legacy. $7.5 billion the Department of Transportation that he's the secretary of received to add electric vehicle charging stations across the country. He accomplished a total of 8. 8. Almost $1 million a piece is what that works out to be, folks. You wonder why people wanted to go a different direction this time around. That's 100% why. Because the amount of BS waste that was just money thrown down a toilet was astronomical. Astronomical. We'll talk about Daniel Penny. As of right now, as it stands, there's a hung jury. They can't come to a decision one way or the other. Probably going to go to a mistrial. Not what he deserves. He deserves a not guilty. Here is a former Marine who's on a subway full of people. They were locked underground because of a stoppage. You have this lunatic on the train saying somebody's going to die today, and was getting loud and boisterous and physically, taking a fighting stance with people. If you've ever had any sort of training whatsoever for defensive tactics, or even, you don't even have to do that. A lot of these MMA places and a lot of these self-defense groups, they'll tell you, you can see when somebody takes a fighting stance. They ball their fists. They start getting boisterous. The eyes get big. You can see the adrenaline dumping them. They're looking for who their target's going to be, yada, yada, yada. Daniel Penny recognized this and interacted, and he stopped the man. As a result, the man was still breathing. That was something that came out that nobody was talking about, that he was still breathing when law enforcement got there. Or he still had a pulse, rather. The prosecutors in this case, AC Spillane had an article that she posted in the Daily Mail, from the Daily Mail on the UK, talking about how the journalists have been bullied by New York prosecutors to only release certain sides or have a certain slant to their stories about it. I think it's going to end up in a hung jury. I can't see them. It's 50-50 from what all reports are right now. I can't see them crossing the line and getting everyone to either convict or give a not guilty. Never should have happened. You remember, he was arrested 6-7 days later after there was outrage in the streets because the person who died, who was the lunatic, was black and Daniel Penny was white. And of course, that was the reason that Daniel Penny did what he did, according to them. But you have to ask yourself, why? Why can't we hold people actually accountable for their actions? When stuff like this happens, we've lost our way so much in this country. The guy had mental health problems. The guy was under the use of narcotics. All of that, yes. The system. You want to argue that the system failed the guy? Okay, we can argue the system failed the guy. But the system also failed Daniel Penny, because that lunatic should not have been on the train. Shouldn't have been on that train. He shouldn't have been out in public. That situation was forced upon Daniel Penny, and he responded to protect the people on the train around him. He's a hero. I don't care what anyone says. He did nothing wrong. The fact that there is a hung jury right now is scary. Scary to me. By the way, one of the jurors is wearing a double mask. They have a mask with their N95 over it. As I saw somebody put on X say, there was the painting that was released. You can't obviously see the jurors, but somebody said, man, that person might as well be wearing a Harris t-shirt. But it's true. It's used to be that in that situation, no questions asked, not even 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, Daniel Penny would have been called a hero right away. There would have been no arrest, not 8 days later after people protested. He shouldn't have been prosecuted. You had witnesses that said, hey, he had to do what he had to do. You had witnesses that were thanking him for what he did. He cooperated with law enforcement. He tried to put him in the recovery position after he did the rear naked choke. He did everything that you're taught to do in those situations. And he got prosecuted for it, for doing the right thing, because it's New York. And we all know how New York prosecution is. We all know what they will prosecute for and what they won't. Go through and look at how many illegals have been arrested for violent crimes and released. How many people have been arrested for murder that were released for violent crimes previously? New York's a shit show. Alvin Bragg is a piece of garbage, literally and figuratively. If you ever look at him, he makes me look skinny. He's a piece of trash. He was a piece of trash before he went after Trump. He's certainly a piece of trash for this prosecution. He's a Soros-backed DA. He is a problem. He doesn't serve the best interests of New York City. He serves the best interests of the Democratic Party. Because that's all it is. Supporting the Democrat machine, the Democrat agenda, prosecuting people like Daniel Penny, but then having no bail and letting people walk out the door. Like the illegals, people that have committed felonies, violent crimes, rape, pushing people onto train tracks. All of that. That is what happens when you have a lawless society. You create these situations. And then when you have a lawless society and a hero like Daniel Penny steps in to do the right thing and does the right thing, and then he's prosecuted for it. It's a clown world that we're living in. New York City is a clown world. It's not real life. The law is not protecting the good people. The law is protecting the bad people. It is giving excuses to the bad people. And if he gets convicted somehow, less and less people are going to step in when the time is right. And it's not because they're cowards in the moment. They're going to remember situations like Daniel Penny and go, I don't know if I want to get arrested for that. I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life in jail, because what I should be doing, the right thing to do, is deemed illegal. Talk a little bit about North Carolina. North Carolina is still recovering from the hurricane, and I'll tell you what, they're not doing well. There are reports that 3 people froze in the tent. I think it was Wednesday into Thursday they were found. And then you have FEMA coming out and trying to defend.
Good afternoon.
And as you watch this, I want you to notice they make a claim that the people in tent story was misinformation. Then they admitted the tents existed. And then they acknowledged that there were non-heated tents. It's just follow along for me, would you?
Good afternoon. We're hearing questions and concerns about the presence of tents after the storm. Directly after the storm, we did have a lot of people utilizing lightweight tents, and that's one of the things that we did a canvassing effort for. Although these reports are being shared and elevated through social media, with that social media being from within and a lot of times outside the area, these may not always be the case. Canvassing efforts confirmed that there were no lightweight tents that were being used. We do have some tents that are canvas tents that have a heating source in them and are designed for cold weather that people are utilizing in some of these areas and utilizing that to provide the support that they need. And we have some people in other structures as well on their property. As we went to Swannanoa, we found that several tents were being utilized, as we stated, some of the stronger, heavier weight tents with a heating source, but we also found a need for 3 additional tents, the canvas tents with a heating source and generator that were supplied in conjunction with the Red Cross to these residents.
Folks, this is 2 months ago that this hurricane transpired. And you remember when we went after FEMA, when all this happened, and we were told, oh, this is all misinformation.
Good afternoon.
FEMA didn't do anything wrong. They're awesome. FEMA's doing great, yada, yada, yada. There's still people in tents. Still people in tents from that hurricane. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be investigated. It's ridiculous. It's an atrocity. The money we're sending to Ukraine, the money, was it Angola? Where was Biden last week where he promised them $1 billion? Why are we doing that when we still have people living in tents after a hurricane? That's what they're supposed to do. We're supposed to take care of our own people. Everybody agrees. This isn't like a welfare handout or all those things that we have arguments about. These people were victims of this hurricane. And now they're a victim of FEMA. How do you sit there with a straight face and feel good about yourself? We know that they were told to avoid Trump supporters. We know that. We knew they were living in tents for a few weeks afterwards. We know that all the Amish donated all those temporary housing that the state, or the county rather, would not allow people to stay in because they didn't pull permits and blah, 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 blah. So you're going to make them live in tents? In law, you have what's called the spirit of the law and the letter of law. It's how you apply a law, right? I've talked about this before. The letter of law is when you do it word for word, and in some situations, it is required. You do exactly what the law says word for word and how you apply it. The spirit of law is what a law was intended to do. And if that law is trying to be applied, or somebody wants to apply it in something that's not its intent, but it technically could fall under the prongs of that law, but it goes against the intent of that law, then you don't apply it. They're living under this letter of the law when it's convenient and doing nothing when it's not convenient. The spirit of the law is getting thrown out the window. The spirit of the law and all the rules and FEMA are supposed to help the people who are victimized in an emergency management situation. And it's just not being done. It's government failure at its absolute best. We will send money to any friggin' underwater basket weaving. We'll send money to Angola for lesbian interpretive dance studies, whatever. But we can't. Why can't we just put them in a hotel? I don't mind paying for stuff like this as a taxpayer. This is what I want my money to go to help people that need it. Legitimately need it. And it's not happening. And this is under the Biden administration. This is under Democrats. This is not, this should not be a debate. And I'm pissed, and everyone else should be too. Because I'll tell you right now, if we can't protect people after a natural disaster, when can we protect them at all? We want to bomb other countries. We want to send missiles, rockets, and billions of dollars to Ukraine. But we can't take care of people in North Carolina. Does anybody else? Is it just me? Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, look. Green screen's failing. Maybe I'm just crazy, but you have to realize that when it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And we lose track of that as a nation so often. So often. We just had an election saying, please, can we go back to common sense and doing the right thing? And I'll tell you right now, even if I was a hardcore Democrat in charge of these places like FEMA, I would have looked at that and said, oh, we got to change direction. We start doing things differently. But they're not. They're not, and they won't. That's why they got to go. We got to get people in there that are going to do it right. I'm not saying abolish FEMA, because I think I've seen FEMA work. Oh, that's absolutely crazy that's doing that. How funny is that? It's on this side. This side. There it is, bleeding through. Nope. That side, sorry. But it needs to change. Our government needs to change, top to bottom. People better be ready to be uncomfortable for the next 4 years for these massive cuts that are coming, and they will be coming. And they need to come because we waste money, we give money away, and when it's time to take care of our own citizens who deserve it, who need it, who the country is behind saying, yeah, those folks are in trouble, we don't do it. Wrapping it up with this week's drink of the week here on the Edge of Liberty. I'm a bourbon guy. Everyone knows that. This comes from feastingathome.com. It's called A Long Winter's Nap. And it's bourbon, infused maple syrup, or infused simple syrup with maple, lemon juice, star anise. Put it in a shaker, pour, garnish with the star anise. 2 ounces of bourbon, whiskey or rye. I'll tell you right now, if you use a high-proof bourbon, it's great. 2 tablespoons of infused maple syrup, simple syrup. You can just use plain maple syrup. You don't have to make a simple syrup. I like a rich Demerara in this, actually. Demerara simple syrup. Use Demerara sugar. Do it rich. You do 2 cups of sugar for 1 cup of water. Heat it up. It's outstanding. And just 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice. Put it in the shaker. Shake the bejesus out of it. Get the shaker nice and frosty. Pour it in a glass with the ice. And garnish with some star anise and a lemon slice. You want to be pretty. I'll tell you, I made that last weekend. It was delicious. All the ones I give you in the drink of the week are ones that I try before I give it to you. That's it for me. Look, you can join me tonight. I'm going to be on Reaver Common Sense with Jersey Joe at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll join Joe. I believe BZ from Berserk Bobcat Saloon will be joining us. For our friends at KLRN, you have so many great shows coming up Friday night and the weekend. Make sure you check their schedule, KLRNradio.com. It'll tell you everything that's going on. That is it for me. Thank you for letting me make your ears bleed. I'll be back Monday at 12 Pacific, 3 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. You can follow me, the number 2 Against Tyranny on X. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. Share with your friends. If you're listening on the podcast, please subscribe to where you're listening to, either on iTunes or on YouTube. I am on YouTube, by the way. If you listen to YouTube music, you can find my podcast there. If you feel so inclined to help a brother out with either my coffee problem or my bourbon problem, feel free to scan those QR codes. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you Monday afternoon. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and, oh, God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Thank you.